Imagine two mighty powers locked in a fierce struggle for Mediterranean dominance. One a rising republic on the Italian peninsula, the other a wealthy maritime empire ruling the seas. This was Rome versus Carthage, the epic rivalry that sparked the Punic Wars. A century-long clash that reshaped the ancient world. At its core was the battle for Sicily, a vital hub of trade and agriculture. These wars tested the resilience, ingenuity, and ambition of both powers, forging Rome's path to empire. In this video, we'll uncover the origins of this monumental conflict. Welcome to the War Vault. The Punic Wars, spanning from 264 to 146 BC, were a defining struggle between two ambitious powers, Rome and Carthage. By the 3rd century BC, both were expanding rapidly, their distinct cultures, governance, and military strengths setting the stage for an inevitable clash. Their rivalry over resources, trade routes, and strategic territories, particularly the island of Sicily, ignited a conflict that would determine the Mediterranean's dominant power and shape the course of Western history. Carthage, founded around the 9th century BC by Phoenician settlers from Tyre, was a maritime empire centered in modern-day Tunisia. Its strategic position on the North African coast made it a commercial powerhouse, controlling trade routes across the Western Mediterranean. Carthage's colonies in Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, and Spain generated wealth through agriculture, mining, and trade in goods like grain, wine, and purple dye. Its economy thrived on a vast network of ports, supported by a formidable navy of quinqueremes, sleek, multi-oared warships manned by skilled citizen sailors. Carthage's government was an oligarchy, led by a council of aristocrats and 2 elected suffetes, akin to chief magistrates. This system prioritized commercial interests, with decisions driven by a wealthy merchant elite. The Carthaginian military relied on mercenary armies recruited from regions like Numidia, Iberia, and Gaul, supplemented by a professional navy. This naval supremacy allowed Carthage to dominate sea lanes, securing its economic and strategic influence across the Mediterranean. In contrast, Rome was a land-based power rising from the Italian peninsula. Founded in 753 BC, according to legend, Rome had evolved into a republic by the 3rd century BC, governed by elected consuls, praetors, and a powerful senate representing patricians and plebeians. Its military strength lay in its disciplined infantry legions, organized into flexible maniples that excelled in close combat. Through conquest and alliances, Rome had unified much of Italy, subduing tribes like the Samnites and Etruscans. This expansion fueled Rome's ambition to project power beyond its borders, setting it on a collision course with Carthage. The contrasting natures of these powers, Rome's land-based republicanism versus Carthage's sea-based oligarchy, made conflict likely. Both sought to dominate the Mediterranean, a region rich in resources and trade opportunities. Sicily, an island at the heart of the Mediterranean, became the focal point of their rivalry. Its fertile lands produced abundant grain, vital for feeding growing populations, and its position as a trade hub made it strategically indispensable. Sicily was a complex patchwork of Greek colonies, indigenous tribes, and Phoenician settlements, creating a volatile arena for competition. The spark for the First Punic War, 262–241 BC, came from Messana, a city on Sicily's northeastern coast. In 288 BC, the Mamertines, a band of Italian mercenaries, seized Messana and faced threats from Syracusan Greeks and Carthaginian forces. Initially seeking Carthage's aid, the Mamertines later appealed to Rome when internal divisions arose. Rome's decision to intervene in 264 BC was a bold challenge to Carthage's dominance in Sicily. By accepting the Mamertines' plea, Rome signaled its intent to expand beyond Italy, directly threatening Carthage's influence. This decision was driven by strategic and economic motives. Sicily's grain and trade routes were too valuable to ignore, and Rome feared Carthage's growing presence could encircle its interests. For Carthage, Rome's intervention was an affront to its regional authority, threatening its commercial empire. The First Punic War began as a localized dispute, but quickly escalated into a broader struggle for Mediterranean supremacy. The war, lasting 23 years, was a grueling test for both powers. For Rome, it was a leap into uncharted territory, as the Republic had little experience in naval warfare. Carthage's navy, with its superior ships and seasoned crews, held the advantage. Rome responded with remarkable ingenuity, launching a massive shipbuilding program based on captured Carthaginian vessels. The introduction of the corvus, a spiked boarding bridge, allowed Roman legions to board enemy ships and fight as if on land, neutralizing Carthage's naval expertise. Key naval battles shaped the war's outcome. In 260 BC, the Battle of Mylae saw Rome's new fleet, led by consul Gaius Duilius, secure a surprising victory using the corvus to outmaneuver Carthaginian ships. The Battle of Ecnomus in 256 BC, one of the largest naval engagements of antiquity, involved over 300 ships and tens of thousands of men. Rome's victory allowed an invasion of North Africa, though a later defeat at Tunis underscored the challenges of overseas campaigns. The war was marked by sieges, blockades, and heavy losses. Rome lost fleets to storms, while Carthage struggled to sustain its mercenary armies. Rome's ability to mobilize resources and citizen soldiers proved decisive. In 241 BC, the Battle of the Aegates Islands crippled Carthage's supply lines to Sicily, forcing it to negotiate. The Treaty of Lutatius ended the war, with Carthage ceding Sicily, Rome's first overseas province, and marking Rome's emergence as a Mediterranean power. The peace was tense. Carthage, though defeated, remained wealthy and redirected its ambitions to Spain, where the Barca family, led by Hannibal Barca, exploited silver mines to rebuild strength. Rome, emboldened, seized Sardinia and Corsica, a move Carthage viewed as a betrayal, deepening mutual distrust. Both powers prepared for renewed conflict, aware that their rivalry was unresolved. The First Punic War set the stage for the Second Punic War, where Hannibal Barca's audacious campaigns would challenge Rome's survival. This intense rivalry over resources, influence, and prestige transformed Rome from a regional power into a Mediterranean hegemon, while Carthage's resilience foreshadowed the dramatic struggles to come. Join us on the War Vault for Part 2, where we'll explore Hannibal's legendary crossing of the Alps and the battles that tested Rome's resolve. Follow the epic saga of the Punic Wars as we uncover the strategies and sacrifices that defined this monumental clash. The Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BC, stands as one of antiquity's most dramatic conflicts, defined by the audacity of Hannibal Barca, Carthage's brilliant general. His decision to invade Italy by crossing the Alps, a perilous mountain range with a diverse army, including war elephants, remains one of history's most extraordinary military feats. Hannibal's campaign not only showcased his tactical genius, but also tested Rome's resilience. bringing the war to its doorstep and reshaping the Mediterranean's power dynamics. This bold maneuver and its aftermath marked a pivotal chapter in the Punic Wars. Hannibal, born in 247 BC, inherited a fierce resolve from his father, Hannibal Barca, who had nurtured a deep-seated animosity toward Rome after Carthage's defeat in the First Punic War. Raised in Spain, where Carthage had established a new power base, Hannibal honed his skills as a commander. By his late 20s, he was a charismatic leader, adept at uniting diverse troops, Numidians, Iberians, Gauls, and Carthaginians, into a cohesive force. When tensions over Saguntum, a Roman allied city in Spain, sparked the Second Punic War in 218 BC, Hannibal devised a plan that defied conventional strategy. Rather than launching a naval assault or attacking from Carthage, Hannibal chose an audacious overland route through the Alps. This mountain range, with its treacherous passes, freezing temperatures, and hostile tribes, was considered impassable for a large army. Hannibal's force, numbering roughly 50,000 infantry, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants, faced immense challenges. The elephants, symbols of Carthaginian might, were both a psychological weapon and a logistical burden, requiring vast amounts of food and care. The crossing, undertaken in late 218 BC, was a grueling ordeal. Hannibal's army navigated narrow paths, avalanches, and blizzards while fending off attacks from Celtic tribes. Steep cliffs and icy conditions claimed many lives. Soldiers slipped to their deaths, and elephants struggled on the rugged terrain. Food shortages and exhaustion further depleted his ranks. Yet, Hannibal's leadership held the army together. His ability to inspire loyalty even among disparate groups, and his relentless determination kept the campaign alive. After 15 harrowing days, Hannibal descended into northern Italy's Po Valley, having lost nearly half his men and many elephants. The psychological impact of his arrival was profound. Rome, unprepared for an invasion on its own soil, was stunned. Hannibal's strategy hinged on surprise and the hope of rallying Rome's discontented allies, particularly the Gauls in northern Italy, who resented Roman rule. His presence in Italy forced Rome to shift from an offensive posture to a desperate defense of its heartland. Hannibal's campaign in Italy was defined by a series of stunning victories that showcased his tactical brilliance. In December 218 BC, the Battle of the Trebia River marked his first major clash. Facing a Roman army under Sempronius Longus, Hannibal exploited the cold and the terrain. He lured the Romans across the icy Trebia River, then ambushed them with concealed cavalry and infantry, coordinated with precision. The Romans suffered heavy losses, and Hannibal's victory bolstered his reputation, drawing Gallic tribes to his cause. In 217 BC, Hannibal executed one of history's greatest ambushes at the Battle of Lake Trasimene. Using the fog-covered hills along the lake, he concealed his forces and trapped a Roman army led by Gaius Flaminius in a narrow pass. Striking from multiple directions, Hannibal's troops annihilated the Romans, killing Flaminius and nearly 15,000 men. The defeat sent panic through Rome, as no army now stood between Hannibal and the city. The pinnacle of Hannibal's campaign came in 216 BC at the Battle of Cannae, a masterpiece of military strategy. Facing a Roman force of over 80,000 men, nearly twice his own, Hannibal deployed a double envelopment tactic. He positioned his weaker infantry in a convex formation, inviting a Roman assault, while his elite cavalry and veteran troops flanked the enemy. As the Romans pressed forward, Hannibal's line retreated, drawing them into a trap. His cavalry closed the rear, encircling the Romans in a deadly vice. The result was catastrophic. Up to 50,000 Romans were killed in a single day, one of the worst defeats in Roman history. Cannae remains a textbook example of battlefield tactics, studied by military leaders for centuries. Despite these triumphs, Hannibal faced mounting challenges. Carthage provided limited reinforcements, as its resources were stretched across Spain and North Africa. Many of Rome's Italian allies remained loyal, denying Hannibal the widespread rebellion he sought. Rome, displaying remarkable resilience, adopted a strategy of attrition under Fabius Maximus, known as the delayer. Fabius avoided direct battles, instead harassing Hannibal's supply lines and isolating his forces, wearing them down over time. Hannibal's campaign introduced innovative warfare tactics. He blended conventional battles with guerrilla raids, using Numidian cavalry to disrupt Roman communications and supplies. His propaganda efforts, portraying himself as a liberator from Roman oppression, won over some Italian cities, like Capua. Yet, the lack of siege equipment and reinforcements prevented him from assaulting Rome itself, a strategic limitation that haunted his campaign. As the war dragged on, Rome regained its footing. The Republic rebuilt its armies and opened new fronts, particularly in Spain, where young General Scipio Africanus targeted Carthaginian holdings. By 206 BC, Scipio's victories in Spain cut off Hannibal's supply lines, forcing him to stretch his resources thin. In 204 BC, Scipio invaded North Africa, threatening Carthage itself and compelling Hannibal to return home. Hannibal's Alpine crossing remains one of history's boldest military maneuvers. It shocked the ancient world, bringing war to Rome's doorstep and exposing its vulnerabilities. Though he never captured Rome, Hannibal's campaign tested the Republic's endurance, forcing it to adapt and innovate. His tactics, ambushes, encirclements, and psychological warfare set new standards for military strategy. The Second Punic War revealed both Hannibal's genius and Rome's tenacity. While Hannibal's victories reshaped Roman military thinking, Rome's ability to endure and counterattack laid the foundation for its eventual triumph. The war's turning point came later, but Hannibal's legacy as a daring commander endures. In the final part of this series on the War Vault, we'll explore Rome's response, led by Scipio Africanus, culminating in the Battle of Zama and the Third Punic War's destruction of Carthage. Join us as we conclude this epic saga of rivalry, resilience, and Rome's rise to Mediterranean dominance. The Second Punic War, 218-201 BC, sparked by Hannibal Barca's audacious invasion of Italy, pushed the Roman Republic to its limits. Despite catastrophic defeats, Rome's resilience, strategic adaptability, and the emergence of a brilliant general, Scipio Africanus, turned the tide. This final chapter of the Punic Wars explores Rome's remarkable comeback, the decisive Battle of Zama, and the Third Punic War's destruction of Carthage, cementing Rome's ascent as the Mediterranean's dominant power. These conflicts reshaped the ancient world, forging Rome's path to empire and leaving a Hannibal's victories at Trebia, 218 BC, Lake Trasimene, 217 BC, and Cannae, 216 BC, left Rome reeling. The Battle of Cannae, where up to 50,000 Roman soldiers perished in a single day, was a low point, shaking the Republic's confidence. Many Italian allies, including Capua, defected to Hannibal, and Rome itself faced the threat of siege. Yet, Rome's refusal to negotiate or surrender showcased its tenacity. The Senate mobilized new legions, conscripted citizens, and even freed slaves to bolster its forces, demonstrating a collective will to survive. Under Fabius Maximus, dubbed Cunctator, the delayer, Rome adopted a strategy of attrition. Fabius avoided pitched battles, instead harassing Hannibal's supply lines, raiding his camps, and isolating his forces in southern Italy. This Fabian strategy frustrated Hannibal, who struggled to maintain his army without consistent reinforcements from Carthage. Meanwhile, Rome's diplomatic efforts kept most of its Italian allies loyal, denying Hannibal the widespread rebellion he needed to topple the Republic. Rome also opened new fronts to weaken Carthage's empire. In Spain, a critical source of silver and manpower, the brothers Gnaeus and Publius Scipio initially led Roman efforts. After their deaths, Publius Cornelius Scipio, later known as Scipio Africanus, took command in 211 BC. A young and innovative leader, Scipio studied Hannibal's tactics, adopting flexible formations and rapid maneuvers. His capture of New Carthage, 209 BC, disrupted Carthaginian operations, securing Roman control over Spain's resources and cutting off Hannibal's supply lines. By 204 BC, Scipio launched a daring invasion of North Africa, bringing the war to Carthage's doorstep. This forced Hannibal, who had campaigned in Italy for over a decade, to return home to defend his city. Scipio's campaign allied him with Numidian king Massinissa, whose cavalry would prove crucial. The stage was set for the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, a clash that would decide the fate of the Mediterranean. At Zama, near Carthage, Scipio faced Hannibal in a battle of strategic titans. Hannibal's army, bolstered by war elephants, numbered around 45,000, while Scipio's forces, including Numidian cavalry, were slightly smaller but highly disciplined. Scipio, having analyzed Hannibal's tactics, devised a plan to counter the elephants. He arranged his legions in lanes, allowing the charging beasts to pass through harmlessly, then targeted them with javelins. His infantry held firm against Hannibal's veterans, while Massinissa's cavalry outflanked the Carthaginians, mirroring Hannibal's own encirclement tactics. The battle was fiercely contested, but Scipio's disciplined formations and coordinated cavalry strikes secured a decisive victory. Hannibal's defeat at Zama marked the end of Carthage's military power. The peace terms, dictated by Rome, were crippling. Carthage surrendered its overseas territories, paid a massive indemnity of 10,000 talents, and was barred from waging war without Rome's consent. Its navy was reduced to a handful of ships, ending its maritime dominance. Scipio, hailed as Africanus, returned to Rome a hero, while Hannibal fled into exile, his dreams of vengeance shattered. Rome emerged as the Mediterranean's unrivaled power, its confidence and ambitions soaring. The peace, however, was uneasy. Carthage, though diminished, began to recover economically, sparking Roman fears of a resurgent rival. By the mid-2nd century BC, hawkish Roman senators, led by Cato the Elder, demanded Carthage's destruction, famously ending speeches with, "Carthage must be destroyed." The Third Punic War, 149–146 BC, was less a war than a premeditated act of annihilation. Rome issued impossible demands, including that Carthage's citizens abandoned their city and relocate inland. When Carthage resisted, Rome launched a siege. The siege of Carthage was brutal. For 3 years, Roman forces under Scipio Aemilianus, grandson of Scipio Africanus, blockaded the city, starving its inhabitants. In 146 BC, the Romans breached the walls, engaging in savage street-by-street fighting. Carthage's defenders, including civilians, fought desperately, but the city fell. Rome razed its buildings, killed or enslaved its population, and, according to later accounts, salted the earth to symbolize its permanent destruction, though this may be apocryphal. The fall of Carthage marked the end of the Punic Wars and the elimination of Rome's greatest rival. The Punic Wars transformed Rome from a regional power into a Mediterranean hegemon. Sicily, Spain, and North Africa became Roman provinces, providing wealth and resources that fueled further expansion. The wars tested Rome's republican system, revealing its ability to mobilize citizens, adapt militarily, and absorb devastating losses. The Senate's authority grew, and generals like Scipio Africanus became models for future Roman leaders, foreshadowing the transition to empire. The legacy of the Punic Wars is profound. Hannibal's tactics, particularly his double envelopment at Cannae, influenced military strategy for centuries, studied by generals from Caesar to Napoleon. Rome's resilience and adaptability, seen in its naval innovations, Fabian tactics, and Scipio's campaigns, set a precedent for its imperial success. The wars also reshaped the Mediterranean's cultural and political landscape. Roman law, infrastructure, and governance spread to conquered territories, laying the foundation for the Pax Romana. Latin replaced Punic as the region's dominant language, and Roman cities, like Carthage's rebuilt colony, became centers of trade and administration. The Punic Wars also had broader implications. The influx of wealth and slaves from conquered territories strained Rome's republican institutions, contributing to social inequalities and political instability that later fueled civil wars. Yet, they also showcased Rome's ability to unite diverse peoples under its rule. A hallmark of its later empire, the destruction of Carthage eliminated a cultural and commercial rival, allowing Roman influence to dominate the Mediterranean, shaping Western civilization. In conclusion, the Punic Wars were a crucible for Rome's rise. Hannibal's brilliance tested the Republic's limits, but Rome's resilience, strategic innovation, and relentless determination secured its victory. The fall of Carthage marked the end of an era and the dawn of Roman hegemony, setting the stage for an empire that would shape the ancient world for centuries. Thank you for joining the War Vault for this epic tale of rivalry and triumph. If you enjoyed this journey through the Punic Wars, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to stay updated with more stories of legendary battles and historic turning points. Until next time, keep exploring the past with the War Vault.